Hey guys, so today's video is going to be another guitar video. It's been quite a while since I've done one. And I picked this body up off of eBay, and I was originally wanting to hold off before I bought anything like this because I wanted to get into the routing and stuff myself and actually making bodies. And I just couldn't let this one go. I love the way the streaks are in this wood. So this is going to be built without a pickguard, and we're going to concentrate on making the electronics stand out. I got a square Telecaster neck here from a 2018, and I just love the wood grain of it. I've had good experience with these necks before, so I figured go with it. I was going to sand all this off and put my name on it. I think I'm just going to leave it alone. So this is pretty much the foundation of the guitar, and everything's going to go around this. We do have some places that's got to be filled in by the knots. Take a look at the back. As you can see, and this is pine. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'm not sure exactly what type of pine. Got some nasty looking places that need filled in. And we're just going to use polyurethane to fill these in with and give it plenty of time to dry between coats. So it's February 19th, 2022, so we'll see how long it will take me to get this done, because I'm just going to be doing a little bit at a time on it. Hopefully get it done by the fall. And it'll probably be done here in a couple months. Once I get started on something, it won't take too long. But we're going to polyurethane finish this, clear coat it. And polyurethane will slightly yellow it, and almost like a real mild stain, which I was going to try to avoid, but I think it'll be alright. So this is routed for a standard Telecaster neck pickup. We want to put a Strat pickup in it, which it won't be this one. I'm going to be winding them myself. This will be a whole other part of the video. But I got these routing templates to open up the cavity just a little bit more to fit a Strat pickup in there, because I like the way a Strat pickup sounds. Nothing against Telecaster neck pickups, it's just I want to do something a little different with this, and I love a Strat neck pickup and a Tele bridge pickup. I did consider going with a middle pickup as well, but I was kind of afraid the routing might interfere with the knots, and while it don't look like it will, but I might consider doing that after this part's done, and we'll see what we got to work with. So right now, we'll go ahead and get set up to route this. I got a brand new router, so we'll try to get some of that on camera too. Then we'll start doing this. It's not going to be a step-by-step video, but I just want to kind of hit and miss. The top and the back of this is in really smooth, but the sides are a little bit rough, so that's where I'm going to have to concentrate on the sanding. And I probably won't even have to sand this at all. I feel like it's already been sanded, but I say 220 or 320. It's pretty smooth. It's a two-piece body, split right down the middle. It's a perfect seam, and you just barely see the difference. String through. Alright, so I got the masking tape just to mark the location of the template, the way it can be removed, so I can put the 3M brand double stick tape on the bottom. I say 3M because it's the only one to use, the only one I've had good luck with. This way I can take it off and put it right back into the exact same spot that it was. And the center line that's marked on here is off of the body just a little bit. I don't know if the body wasn't routed exactly on the center line or if the template's off a little bit. Alright, so this is pretty much how I'm going to do it. I got 3M double stick tape holding it down pretty good. I think we got it in a good spot. Won't have to be exactly perfect because I'm going to be putting a pickup ring around this, so that'll cover up any slight imperfections. Okay, so this is the router I got. It's a brand new router, only been plugged in to make sure it came on. Hammerhead's the brand, it's off Amazon. It's unplugged. This is the type of bit we're going to use. It's a template or pattern bit. You see it has an actual ball bearing on it. It comes in contact with the template. That way you get a perfect route. I already got this set. So it was dragging on the bottom part, and I raised it up just until it wouldn't touch it. So we're just going to open this up. The depth is not super critical. So I'll go ahead and do it on camera just to have something different on here. I seen something moving up and down. I thought the collet came loose, but this little black collar that locks the bearing in came loose. So everything was just sitting there bouncing around. So And always make sure those are tight. Get a perfect clean route. Couldn't be any better. I did start off going wrong. I went this way. It didn't chatter as much when I went around like a clockwise pattern. Something I didn't think about. But. Okay, so I just did some real light hand sanding. Got the edge super smooth. Can't feel no imperfections anywhere, except maybe just a little bit right here, and I can touch it up later. This is also going to be wet sanded between coats. And I went ahead and went over the body just a little bit, just to kind of open up the pores a little bit in the wood. Didn't sand it very much at all. I'd say probably 5 to 10 minutes total, if that. Like I said, this body's in really good shape, and I'll put links in the description to the sellers that I bought stuff from. Also wanted to note, I just used 220 grit sandpaper on all this. I'm not trying to cause any debate or anything, but 220 has always been my go-to sandpaper for anything wood related, except for like rough end work, and I would use like an 80 or 120 and work my way up to 220. It just seemed like a perfect grit for like just woodworking in general. I've never had any problems with it. Some people suggest sanding all the way up to like 400 before you start putting primer, sealer, or paint on or clear coat or whatever on a guitar body like this. I've done 220 before. It feels super smooth. I've never had any problem with it. Obviously, when I'm wet sanding and rubbing out, I won't be using 220 on that. I'll be using about 3000. It works perfect on that. So I just want to make a little note of the type of sandpaper I'm using. Another little trick. This is the polyurethane I'm using, which is just standard high gloss Minwax polyurethane. I've been having it sitting in hot water for probably a half hour or so, because it's been in the garage, and the garage ain't heated all the time. So that definitely makes it easier to work with and dries a little faster if your paint's warm. I do spray paint the same way. It's an old trick, but it works wonders. So I'm just going to use a little, like a touch-up brush here to kind of dab it. What I was talking about polyurethane yellowing, you see how it's got almost a reddish tint to it in this case, as you can see here. So it almost acts like a stain. So it's not going to look like this, but clear. It's going to be slightly yellow, which is not always a good thing, but if it's too much, we won't use it. We'll find some other type of clear coat to use, like lacquer or something. But sometimes lacquers are yellow over time. So I'm just going to kind of dribble in here. This ain't going to take very much at first. We want it to soak in. If you can see how much it'll yellow the color in the wood itself. Some things it looks good on, but I don't know if it's what I want on this one or not. But it'll sand off of this, but we still use this to seal up the knots. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side after this side dries, then continue to fill it in, as you will see. So I had it looking like this in the last clip, as you've seen. You can see it glossed over, like all the way over, both of them. But it opened back up, so I had to put some more on. That's why you almost got to use like an epoxy that dries super fast to keep it from soaking up so much. So hopefully it won't take too much more. I should have thought about this before, but so what's happening, it's soaking through to the back side all the way through, as you can see. So I had to put it up like this, that way it can soak through there and it can seal off on the other side as well. Okay, so I think I finally got the knots under control. I ended up using an epoxy, a two-part epoxy. It may not have been the best option, but I just happened to have it available to work with, so I went for it. And semi-satisfactory results. It could have been better, but I think it'll work. Now we'll get ready to put some polyurethane on it. just shows you how much the polyurethane acts like a stain, because you can see the difference inside the pickup cavity. But you can't really go too much by the first coat because it's going to soak in a lot. So I always put it on thin, kind of acts like a sealer. Then it'll be scuffed in between coats, and at some point be wet sanded and rubbed out. This is actually the original way Fender used to spray bodies. They'd have the screws already in it, spray the sides and the top, and flip it over and do the back all in one process. So it's kind of what we're going to do here. You do have to be very careful with not putting too much finish on, or you'll get major runs and like bubbles, and you just have to sand them out, and it just slows the process. Now, ordinarily on a normal Telecaster, your pickguard would cover this part, so you could put a screw like anywhere through here. But obviously, this was not going to have a pickguard, so I just kind of had to put one in here. You got to be extremely careful not to go out the back side, because you're probably only looking at about a 1/4 inch thick on that bottom, because these are routed pretty deep. So I just put it in one of the string through holes. It'll be covered. You never know that having, and the neck hole up here. So I'm going to flip it over and do the back side. Okay, I did a real light sanding in between coats with 220. I'm getting ready to go for a second coat off camera, then we'll keep doing this when we look at it here soon. Okay, so this is after 3 coats. Still got some surface imperfection, but starting to get some shine on it. A couple issues I'm having. You can see some scratches in here from the 80 grit sandpaper from when I was working on this and this, and got into that, which I was afraid of. But there's still a few other scratches there, so hopefully a little bit more sanding and a couple more heavier coats will take care of that. Got a couple sags here from where I flipped it over, so I'm going to have to sand that down a little bit more, but it's definitely getting there. So we'll look at here after we get to probably the final coat on. I don't want to bore you with all this, but just kind of wanted to show you the progress of it. But it's getting there. Alright, so a little bit of a parts update. We got some things in, and I'm getting there with the finish. Still got a few issues that I want to fix before I call it done and let it sit before we do a final rub. But just kind of wanted to give you an update on the hardware we got. Like I said, we're going with all black. This will have steel saddles. They won't be black saddles. It'll be like steel saddles, chrome knobs, and either a chrome, white, or black neck pickup cover. I just kind of want to go with the black and chrome, and all the screws will be, chrome, just so everything, it's not just all black, it's all just broken up. I think it'll look pretty good, but I really like the way the black looks. I only got one other guitar that's got black hardware on it. And I always looked at black hardware as like a modern thing, but I just wanted something different on this, and I figured, especially since it's not going to have a pickguard, that'll help break up the body just a little bit, Also get the pickup parts in as well. Got standard Telecaster bobbins. I ordered 2 sets of each, and for the Strat Neck Pickup, here's the copper plated steel base plate for the bridge pickup. Alnico 5 and Alnico 2 magnets, 6 of each. So my original idea is the 5-2, so it'd be 5 on the EAD strings and Alnico 2 on the GB and E strings, just to cut down the shrillness of the high strings. Do that on both pickups, so both of them are 5-2. And the other option is make the bridge pickup Alnico 5 and all Alnico 2 on the neck pickup, so I got more of a mellow sound out of the neck pickup. So I got to toss that idea around before I decide to start winding. Alright, so I meant to say it's March 5th. I just sanded it down and put another coat on it. It's looking really good now, except for a few minor bubbles, which should go away on its own while it's drying. Alright, so it's been a little bit since I made a video or done anything to it for that matter. It's now March 25th of 22. Got some more parts in. I thought I'd make a little quick video. Getting ready to start wet sanding using 3000 grit. I'd rather have 4000, but 3000 will work. Might see a few real minor scratches with 3000 or like swirl marks, but it's not too bad. Hopefully we got enough finish on here to work with. I know I put right around 10 coats altogether on there. And the last couple of coats went on kind of thick. So I wanted a little bit to work with because we want to wet sand it smooth, and hopefully it'll be really good when we're done. You probably can't see it, but there's still several imperfections. Hopefully we can sand that out. Got a few more parts in. I got two ideas for the wiring. Number one, I'm going to use a super 5-way switch, which is a double wafer, 4-pole switch, 5 position. Hopefully there's enough room in the cavity for it. I don't want to have to do no more routing or anything like that. If not, we'll just go with a 4-way. I can do something similar with that. And I'm just buying a few parts as we go. These are the string through ferrules for back here, and these may have to be opened up or just cleaned up a little bit to get them to fit. And also ordered the Strat buttons. Got a multi-pack off Amazon for like $6, I think it was, for 4 of each collar and screws and washers too, so you can't go wrong with that. So let me do some work off camera and we'll get back to you. The wet sanding is kind of slow and boring, so I probably won't show none of that on here, but we'll show what it looks like before I try to rub it out, which is another thing I want to talk about briefly. After the whole guitar is wet sanded, this is like my trade secret. Maybe I shouldn't show you. I'll go ahead and show you. Meguiar's Show Glaze, number 7. The best stuff they ever made. And like, you know, we used to use like rubbing compound after wet sanding. This stuff 100 times better than any rubbing compound that I've ever found. Like, I can have this completely dull from wet sanding. In just a matter of seconds almost, you can see yourself in it. Polyurethane takes just a little bit more than like enamel paint, but it works amazing. I got everything mounted here and the test fit it, and it's very tight, like lengthwise is the main issue it appears to be. I don't know if these super switches are just deeper, like it sticks up past that metal piece. I guess it is a little bit longer, not sure. These are CTS 250K pots, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. I think it's going to look really good. It's going to have chrome knobs as well to match this. And okay, so this is after wet sanding. So now, if you look around the edge, you can start to see high places around here where the polyurethane ran off the sides. And you can still see a few little bubbles here and there, which I'm not too worried about those. But you really want to feel, and you can feel any major places. And like this, I call it ridge around here. I can just barely feel it, so I'm going to concentrate on the edge here. Then I'm going to call the backside done. Okay, so at this point it's pretty much wet sanded, but as good as it's going to be. And this is super smooth, as I was saying. Both sides is done. Got the sides the best I could with a few spots. It looked like it might have sanded through, so I may have to go back and touch that up afterwards. Not too worried about it. I think it's going to look pretty good. And this would have turned out perfect if I'd used like a sealer on it. And I was trying to speed things up. Didn't really think it'd be necessary with pine, but it probably was, especially with these knots. Now, this is what I recommend using. I already talked about this, and I use an old t-shirt, an old clean t-shirt I might add. It may not look very clean, but it's clean enough for this, and it'll work amazing. So let's just do a little section on camera to show you what I'm talking about, and we'll go from there. Now, if you got your own method for like buffing or polishing, feel free to do whatever you usually do on something. An actual buffer will work, but you take a chance of burning the paint on something like this. So you gotta shake this stuff up pretty good. And it don't take very much. It is kind of messy. You can also put it on the rag if you prefer to do it that way. Just kind of dab it around, get everything wet from it, and just start rubbing it like you're putting a wax on something. The direction don't really matter. You can go back and forth or round and around. You can already see it starting to work. just a little bit more on there. I'm just doing this little section just to demonstrate how fast it actually starts to work. You can have a whole guitar done in like 20 minutes with this stuff. It's amazing. If you got an old guitar, it's got a not like flaking finish, but like dull or just dirty or like stain. Put some of this stuff on there, make it look almost brand new. It's amazing stuff. Alright, so let's look at it up close. So this is what it looked like. Wet sand, you can see how it's kind of dull looking. Get over here, like a mirror. Still not perfect where I'm just doing a little section. I'm not really covering the whole area, but it's turned out amazing. Well, that's honestly about the best it's going to get. It could be better. As you can see, there's still some imperfections, but it's going to have more finish on it to fix it. It's just sanding dust. But it's got a really good shine though. So, next thing I'm going to move on to is these string through ferrules. And these holes are going to have to be opened up just a hair because of where polyurethane got inside these. So have to drill these just a tiny bit, open them back up. You got to be very careful or it'll chip away and it'll look bad. So I'm actually using a step bit by hand. You can see it just barely goes in there. And I run it to the next size. It just starts cutting on the top like that. It seems to be cleaning it up real good. Because when you set it on there, you can feel it starting to go, so hopefully this will be enough. Alright, so I got the first one in, went in perfect. So, I've had some guitars where these are just so loose that they just fall out, and that's so annoying when you're changing strings. So I'm just taking a small punch, putting it inside here, and just very gently tapping it. You can hear it change sounds towards the end when it bottoms out. So now you got a perfect fit on there. Perfect. It's going to look good. You don't want to force them in because then you can take a chance of chipping or cracking the wood or the finish or causing damage to these themselves because they're just appear to be aluminum because they're super light. You just feel like they could just crumble, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them off camera. Just take your time with it. Now, if you're concerned about damage to your guitar and you don't mind them being loose, feel free to open these up just a little bit so they just fall in, but I don't recommend it. I like them to be fairly snug. You don't want to get it too tight. You don't want to pound them down too much, because I think I did on these two, and you can kind of see an indent in the finish, so you just got to pay attention. You want to make sure they're all the way in, because if not, when you start tuning up, the tension from the string will pull it in, and it'll cause tuning problems until it all settles on its own. So it's been a long time since I worked on the guitar project, and it's July 10th, 2022 right now, so I'm just trying to get a few things done. Everything's done except for the pickups. I got to wind the pickups. Almost tempted just to buy some cheaper pickups and skip the winding part, but I figured let's just stick with my original plan and wind them. I'm not going to do none of this on camera. The assembly of the bobbins is kind of tricky, and the winding is kind of like what the big companies say about their product. It's proprietary, because I got my own winding pattern, and it gives me my own unique sound or EQ scope, whatever you want to call it. And so we'll look at them after the bobbins are assembled, after they're winded, and when they're ready to go in the guitar. Hey guys, so it's been a while since I've done anything with this project. It's now almost November of 22, and I started on this in February of 22, so it's kind of took a break from it. Had a couple things discourage me. I was originally going to wind both pickups, then I ordered the wrong length magnets to build the bobbin for the neck pickup. So I ordered a pickup with Alnico 5 and Alnico 2 for the non-wound strings. And I got thinking, like I couldn't bring myself to wind the pickup because I got discouraged. Not only because of that, I already had the bobbin ready to go. This was Alnico 5 and 2 as well, so we'll use this for a future project. But since I was going with the black and chrome look, I really wanted the top of the bobbin to be the gray material like on the bottom of this. And the company I used to deal with didn't want to work with me, or I couldn't get a hold of them or something, I can't remember. So I just got discouraged, like I said. Ended up just buying a pickup. And this is also Alnico 5 for the bass strings and Alnico 2 for the treble strings. So this should be a pretty good balance. This one reads like right at like 7.2 k ohms, and this is like 6.5 k ohms, so it should be a pretty good pair. And these are beveled magnets too. The pickups came from Guitar Madness on eBay. It might also be known as Guitar Madness. Guitar Madness, I think, is the actual name of it. And they're, imported pickups that are, wound on machines and stuff, but they're made out of all the good stuff. So the price on these pickups is really reasonable. Like this was like 20 bucks for this one, and this one was like 27, I think. So, very cheap, but very good quality pickups. Changed the plans on the switch. I was going to use a 5-way double wafer, and there's just not enough room in the cavity, and I didn't want to have to route it out. The depth is the problem, so I'm going to stick with my original idea of using a 4-way switch. That way the second neck position will be like the circuit on the upper bout of a Jazzmaster. Kind of get like a jazzy sound out of it, just something different. And the pickup I was going to wind, you see I added an extra outlet on there. This is just a standard pickup. Was going to have a tap on it. It's not something I use all the time, but I am left with a hole in the control plate I was going to use for the switch. So I'm going to put some type of toggle switch in there and have some type of, maybe switch the tone capacitor or have a bypass on the tone control. Do something like that, something that I probably actually use. I did end up just keeping the Squire logo on the neck, mainly because I just didn't want to mess with it, and I kind of liked the way the gold looked on there. And obviously, anybody knows anything about Squire and Fender knows this is not a Squire or a Fender, because they never made nothing like this, especially without a pickguard. And it's just a beautiful neck. Really like the neck. If you remember when I first started, this wood was almost the same color as that before I started putting polyurethane on it. Good thing is it's had plenty of time to air out and dry, so you can't even smell the polyurethane now. So that's the only good thing about waiting this long on it. So I'm going to do a lot of this off camera just to speed up the video. I'm already talking too much. So I'm going to go ahead and fit the neck off camera. I do kind of expect to have a alignment issue with the holes. May not. Might be a direct bolt on. But that's usually a problem when you go putting different brands of parts or something together. And I like the holes being pre-drilled in the body, but I just hope it matches up to that. Probably re-drill the body because I don't like messing with the neck. I've had bad problems with that before. Well, didn't have to do no drilling. I just had to open up the holes that's in the body just a little bit, not too much. And it went right on. Off just teeniest tiny bit, which I've already simulated a string on both ends, and it looks perfect. Also, getting ready to mount the bridge. And I already had the string through holes pre-drilled, so I'm using that as an alignment. And so I just put 2 drywall screws in there. It seemed like that fit perfect just to get it lined up to drill the 4 mounting holes. I do have chrome screws for them, but I do not have the chrome screws for the neck bolts, so we'll change them out later on. Alright, so I marked the 4 holes. I just center marked them with an awl. Alright, so I'm starting to get some stuff mounted here. Get the bridge bolted down, or screwed down rather. Get the pickups mounted. Get these holes started in here. Good thing with pine, it's a fairly soft wood, so you don't have to necessarily pre-drill every hole. I just use the Pickguard screws and start it right in there. Disadvantage is they also strip out easy too. Also, meant to note I did away with the original saddles that are probably like zinc or pot metal or something, and these are Fender steel saddles. There's the part number for that. Highly recommend steel or brass saddles. They also make aluminum and titanium in aftermarket, but never messed with them. But it seemed like with the other tally I built, the snakehead style tally, I put the same saddles on it, and it just gives it an open sound. It just goes along with the open sound of the pine. It just seemed like a perfect match. And if we don't like it, we can always swap in a set of brass. Also, another main reason I wanted to change them, because I want the chrome on black look going throughout this. And that's about all I could do with the bridges, the screws, and the saddles. Alright, so we got the control plate in. These are CTS pots. This is an extremely handy tool for tightening and loosening that type of nut. Just a regular nut. And also like a knurled nut, like on a lot of switches and like indicator lights and stuff. Fits different sizes. One side's for tightening, the other side's for loosening. Super handy. It's got felt there, so if you gotta get up underneath, that's something you're not gonna scratch everything up. Several different brands. This Music Nomad, I think it came off Amazon. I still gotta put a switch in here and figure out exactly how I'm gonna wire everything, because I really don't know. I got a 4-way. Now the traditional 4-way mod wiring is bridge and neck and parallel, which is a standard middle position, neck pickup, and both pickups in series to get more output and everything. And I can't decide to do it like that and have this to act like the switch that's up here on a Jazzmaster, or to wire it in as bridge, both pickups in parallel, neck pickup, and then neck pickup with that tone circuit to simulate that jazzy sound, but I can't decide. Strat buttons on it, and again, the only thing I can do with this to keep with the black and chrome is use a black button with a chrome screw. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at now, and just gotta kind of wait and see how I'm going to do the wiring. Also note, I didn't put the plastic plate under the neck plate. Just don't think it's necessary. Never have been a fan of those. So maybe with certain finish types it might be useful to keep from cracking or denting in the finish or something. So I mean, use them if you want, but not required by any means. So this was one of my concerns, was getting the tuners on here, and it covers up the original type of holes as you see here. So no problem at all there as far as I can tell. Alright, so we pretty much got everything installed. I went with this type of output jack just to keep from having any problem with it pulling out or anything. Was disappointed. I like to use Switchcraft brand jacks and everything, because I like the feel of them. They seem like they hold up better than anything. But threads must be metric on that, so I had to use some generic one I already had on stock. Got the strap buttons in, so I got the chrome screw. Also put this type of string tree on it. It had, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it had the butterfly type. And I always like the round ones, so I got black ones with chrome screws. Well, got them all on there, but there's one little issue. Anybody see it? This first screw broke off. I didn't drill it quite deep enough. All the other ones went in just fine. Always gotta be one. But it looks like it's going to work. I mean, it's got the nut that goes on from the back, so it's not going to come loose. And it should be enough of it sticking up to keep it from spinning. So I think we'll be alright. It's a really pain to get these out when this happens. I've had a string tree do it one other time. And I'll probably do more damage to the back of the headstock getting that screw out than what it's doing now. So alright, so I got everything wired. I went with a different setup than I normally do. So we still have a tone control, a volume control, and a 4-way switch, as I said, and an extra switch here. So right now it'd be bridge, bridge neck, neck, then neck with a Jazzmaster tone circuit. A fixed Jazzmaster tone circuit. So in any position, if you flip this switch, it bypasses the volume and the tone control, so you get full output and pick up straight to the output jack. Except for in this position, it'll be this pickup with the preset sound. It's still going to be a little bit more treble since this is bypassed. Use a 0.047 microfarad capacitor on this, and this is wired up with a 47K resistor in series with a 0.022 capacitor, then a 1 meg ohm resistor in parallel across both of them, and that's what gives it that sound. So I'll go ahead and put strings on it off camera and go ahead and do the initial setup, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so get the guitar we just finished up, as you've seen in the rest of the video, and I'm going to run through some sounds on, just not really playing any particular song except for a couple of licks I came up with myself. And we're playing through my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe. It's a single 12-inch speaker with 40 watts, all tube. I might as well say mostly tube. It's two 6L6s, three 12AX7s I believe it is. Might be a 12AT7. I know there's two 12AX7. The reverb is transistor driven and recovered. But for the most part, it's a tube circuit similar to the old Pro Reverb in a way. That's what it reminds me of. The controls, we got the volume set on 1.5, and all the controls go up to 12 on this amp. So the treble and bass is on 12, the middle's in the middle, and the presence is on probably about 7, I'd say. And the reverb's on about 4, 4.5. And this, when I bought this amp, I had to change the reverb tank because it was dead. And it's got a mod tone tank, which has a really crisp and punchy, surfy sounding reverb. It's one of the best sounding reverbs I've ever had. So what I'm going to do, this is a little, I call it like a opening up lick or whatever. I was going to incorporate it into a song eventually, like an instrumental song. There's nothing very special going on here. Just it always sounded kind of catchy, you know. So I'm going to go through all 4 of the selections, playing the same thing. Then flip this switch up, which bypasses the volume and tone. It's just more treble and a little bit louder, as you'll tell. Got both pickups on. Neck pickup with the volume and tone. Now in the 4th position, it's still the neck pickup, but with the Jazzmaster like tone selection. So you know in Jazzmaster, you flip this switch up here, it puts the neck pickup on and uses the 2 little rollers up here. So if you left both of them rollers all the way up, this is similar to what the circuit would be. It's just a real smooth, kind of a quieter sound. Be good for like rhythm or something, or if you want to do some like jazz runs or something, it might be good for that. Alright, so now back to the bridge. Volume and tone control bypassed. It's going to be a lot more trebly and ice picky sounding. Even with the Alnico 2 magnets on the lower strings, I'm still getting a lot of treble out of this guitar, and I think that's because of the pine body and the steel saddles. I think is the main reason for that. definitely a lot brighter and punchier. I don't know if punchier is the right word for it, but it'd be a good setting if you had to cut through the mix, like people say. So here's both pickups on, no controls. Neck pickup, no controls. And again, the neck pickup with the Jazzmaster tone, but still no volume of tones, so it'd be just a little bit more treble. And in any position, volume control works as normal, so does the tone. I don't really use the tone control very much, but it is there if you need to roll back a little bit to get a little less treble, which is probably not a bad idea on this guitar. So, I mean, that's pretty much the basic sounds of it. That's another little lick I do in some kind of slow song or something, just kind of like a background feel, or a good way to start a solo or something. But usually it sounds better with the neck position, but we'll start with the bridge just to get an idea of what it can sound like. I'm going to play more up here to get a little bit more warmth out of it. Guitar sustain's amazing. I think that's more of the steel saddles and the pine body making it sustain more too. Well, I'm not going to use the switch on that little lick, but you kind of get the idea what it does, just provide more treble. But